If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I don't care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. The present is theirs, the future, for which I really worked, is mine. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. If your hate could be turned into electricity, it would light up the whole world. Of all things, I liked books best. My brain is only a receiver. In the universe there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, and inspiration. I have not penetrated the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. I do not think you can name many great inventions that have been made by married men. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. Our virtues and our failings are inseparable, like force and matter. When they separate, man is no more. All that was great in the past was ridiculed, condemned, combated, suppressed, only to emerge even more powerfully, even more triumphantly from the struggle. Let the future tell the truth, and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs, the future, for which I have really worked, is mine. Life is and will ever remain an equation incapable of solution, but it contains certain known factors. If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have the key to the universe. We crave for new sensations, but soon become indifferent to them. The wonders of yesterday are today common occurrences. Invention is the most important product of man's creative brain. The ultimate purpose is the complete mastery of mind over the material world, the harnessing of human nature to human needs. Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation, and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. What one man calls God, another calls the laws of physics. The individual is ephemeral, races and nations come and pass away, but man remains. The gift of mental power comes from God, divine being, and if we concentrate our minds on that truth, we become in tune with this great power. My mother had taught me to seek all truth in the Bible. You may live to see man-made horrors beyond your comprehension. Great moments are born great opportunity. It's not the love you make. It's the love you give. Inventors don't have time for married life. So astounding are the facts in this connection, that it would seem as though the Creator himself had electrically designed this planet. Marconi is a good fellow. Let him continue. He is using 17 of my patents. Most persons are so absorbed in the contemplation of the outside world that they are wholly oblivious to what is passing on within themselves. But instinct is something which transcends knowledge. We have, undoubtedly, certain finer fibers that enable us to perceive truths when logical deduction, or any other willful effort of the brain, is futile. Most certainly, some planets are not inhabited, but others are, and among these there must exist life under all conditions and phases of development. Every living being is an engine geared to the wheelwork of the universe. Though seemingly affected only by its immediate surrounding, the sphere of external influence extends to infinite distance. The carrying out into practice of a crude idea, as is being generally done, is, I hold, nothing but a waste of energy, money, and time. The idea of atomic energy is illusionary, but it has taken so powerful a hold on the mind that although I have preached against it for 25 years, there are still some who believe it to be realizable. There is something within me that might be illusion, as it is often case with young delighted people, but if I would be fortunate to achieve some of my ideals, it would be on the behalf of the whole of humanity. The progressive development of man is vitally dependent on invention. It is the most important product of his creative brain. When natural inclination develops into a passionate desire, one advances towards his goal in 7-league boots. View the events of my past life, I realize how subtle are the influences that shape our destinies. One may feel a sudden wave of sadness and rake his brain for an explanation when he might have noticed that it was caused by a cloud cutting off the rays of the sun. It is not in the shallow physical imitation of men that women will assert first their equality and later their superiority, but in the awakening of the intellect of women. If you only knew the magnificence of the 3, 6, and 9, then you would have a key to the universe. Peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment and merging of races, and we are still far from this blissful realization. The progressive development of man is vitally dependent on invention. Most persons are so absorbed in the contemplation of the outside world that they are wholly oblivious to what is passing on within themselves. These are only new devices for putting the weak at the mercy of the strong. I had admired the works of artists, but to my mind, they were only shadows and semblances. The inventor, I thought, gives to the world creations which are palpable, which live and work. One has to be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. I am credited with being one of the hardest workers, and perhaps I am, if thought is the equivalent of labor, for I have devoted to it almost all of my waking hours. My project was retarded by laws of nature. The world was not prepared for it. It was too far ahead of time. But the same laws will prevail in the end and make it a triumphal success. There is scarcely a subject that cannot be mathematically treated and the effects calculated or the results determined beforehand from the available theoretical and practical data. Deficient observation is merely a form of ignorance and responsible for the many morbid notions and foolish ideas prevailing. My belief is firm in a law of compensation. The true rewards are ever in proportion to the labor and sacrifices made. Merciless is the law of nature, and rapidly and irresistibly we are drawn to our doom. Instinct is something which transcends knowledge. We have, undoubtedly, certain finer fibers that enable us to perceive truths when logical deduction, or any other willful effort of the brain, is futile. The by far greater number of human beings are never aware of what is passing around and within them, and millions fall victims of disease and die prematurely just on this account. Peace can only come as a natural consequence of universal enlightenment and merging of races, and we are still far from this blissful realization. And led me to finally recognize that I was but an automaton devoid of free will and thought and action and merely responsible to the forces of the environment. Famous as inventor, engineer and futurist, who obtained over 300 patents.
Born on July 10, 1856. Died on January 7, 1943.
Born in Smiljan, Croatia. Died at age 86. Nikola Tesla was an inventor and engineer who garnered over 300 patents in his lifetime. His most famous work, however, was the development of alternating current, which laid the foundation for futuristic technologies. Here are a few interesting pieces of trivia from the life of this famous scientist. A lightning storm was raging when Tesla was born, and apparently the midwife deemed it to be a bad omen and said this child will be a child of darkness. Hearing this, his mother replied, "No, he will be a child of light." Tesla was a man of wit and humor, and he would indulge in funny correspondences with friends. For instance, he penned this letter to an acquaintance after dining with friend Rudyard Kipling.
April 1st, 1901.
Dear Mrs. Johnson, what is the matter with the ink spiller Kipling? He dared to invite me to dine in an obscure hotel where I would be sure to get hair and cockroaches in the soup. Yours truly, N. Tesla. Tesla was an inventor who realized the importance of renewable resources and even conducted research on how to utilize energy from earth and air. He was also a humanist who was described by Jane Alcorn as someone who did what he did for the sake of the betterment of mankind and wanted to give people an opportunity to have a better quality of life. Thus, he never seemed to care about monetary gain and never had enough money for his research.